I found it a very depressing speech because, if anything, I think that it marked the definitive end of the 20th century, the so-called American century, along with the entire epistemological framework that defined it, and the assumptions, the narratives, the structures that have shaped that era and have shaped all of our assumptions about that era, the world in which we relied upon as Europeans. That's gone. That is gone forever. And the United States, that was once an inspirational state or an outward-looking state that sought to, as I could frame it, is now a reactive state, a state with a sense of victimhood. And I think that breaks my heart. And I think it is quite terrifying.
But there's always been an isolationist streak in America, hasn't there? This is not actually anything new.
No, this is absolutely something new because there's never been a president, Donald Trump, not within the 20th century. The thing about it is this: if you look back in American history to a president similar to Donald Trump, you'd probably come across Andrew Jackson. But America wasn't the dominant. America wasn't a world power when Andrew Jackson was the president. And so that's the difference. The difference is that the entire world, the entire Western world, and huge parts of the world that are not the Western world rely on the United States. And that's the honest truth. And now they can't. It's over.
Why do you think people voted for him then?
Well, they didn't for those reasons. The reason people voted for him, I'm sure that the people who've voted for Donald Trump have made their opinions plain. There's been thousands of journalists that have gone to every single kind of or Nevada for the same reason that voted here for Herbert Kickle and the FPU. Unfortunately, there's a whole load of toxic circumstances that have left people worse off than they were before COVID hit, a lingering effect of COVID.
You seem surprised at this concept that Donald Trump might not be that happy with the current leadership. Not many people, even in the UK, obviously, are that happy with the leadership of the UK, but that Donald Trump might not be happy with it and that there might be some issues in the relationship between the UK and the US. And I was surprised that you were surprised, so I thought I should call you.
Well, I'm not hugely surprised. It'll be interesting to see whether there is going to be a veto of Peter Mandelson. Simon Marks is absolutely adamant that he's heard nothing along those lines. It does seem a matter of speculation in the UK press, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And there have been all of these remarks over the years by various British politicians about Donald Trump. Now, I don't know if he will hold a grudge or not. He seemed to get on very well with Keir Starmer and David Lammy when they met in Trump Tower. So who knows? But it could be quite a bumpy ride, because if he imposes tariffs on the UK, I'm not sure what we do in response.
Well, exactly that. I don't think the UK has got a card to play. I agree with I live in a pretty affluent part of New Jersey. It's a commuter belt town into New York City, where I work myself. My wife drives a Range Rover. There's a lot of guys up and down here with all the European cars. You don't see that reciprocated most of my car wouldn't even fit down most streets in the UK, my truck, and I don't know where the reciprocation would be. Sorry? Well, no,
I said it's not size that counts.
It would be when I got to the UK and tried to drive through London in my Escalade, and I can tell you that. But the point is, there is no reciprocation. There is no, as far as I can see it, there's no reason for, other than an old relationship that people like Lammy, these people, these odious characters that now run the UK, it's so sad to be here on the other side of the Atlantic watching this. People like Millibrain, or the guy that's obsessed with windmills, Starmer, the things they've said that are unbelievable. I think the issue is, because in the UK, when you're gone as a prime minister. No one has ever seen a comeback like we've just seen. It's not just in our lifetimes, but in history. There's never been a comeback like the one that Donald Trump's just pulled off. And these people assumed, you see, When Starmer said that Donald Trump doesn't understand the words humanity and dignity, when Millibrain said that Trump was a racist, misogynist groper, when Wes Streeting, what did he say? He said he's an odious, sad little man. David Lammy said, and this is the worst one of all, David Lammy said he's a woman-hating neo-Nazi. And when they said these things, Ian, it was because they never, ever thought they'd see the day where he's back. Well, guess what? He is back.
I think Trump himself has a smaller, tighter, more competent and loyal team around him. I think he learned a lot from his first administration, which I largely see him where he focused largely most of that on foreign policy itself. And what's more, the energy, optimism and kind of fury, as you say, present at the inauguration is not only in stark contrast to UK politics itself, but actually just generally refreshing to see in politics. We've seen...
Sorry, refreshing to see the fury of Donald Trump at a, quote, radical and corrupt establishment? What's refreshing about the fury, sorry?
So not referring to that, but the energy and optimism present at the rally, at the inauguration, because, I mean, thankfully, we've seen some of Trump's fiercest opponents conceding quite gratefully. I think Biden, he said, welcome home. Yep. Mark Zuckerberg's even an example. We've seen many of Trump's fiercest opponents conceding gratefully. And I think now in the UK, it's time for the Labour Party to kind of roll out the red carpet and do the same. We've seen a video message released by Keir Starmer, which I think...
For whom? Sorry, do the same for whom? Concede gracefully to whom?
Not concede gracefully, but roll out the red carpet for Donald Trump. Some of the comments that the Labour front bench has made about him, I think this is in the national interest. This is above party politics. This has to be in the national interest. The Labour Party must roll out the red carpet for Trump.
I thought today's inauguration was a breath of fresh air. It's what a lot of forgotten Americans needed to hear, wanted to hear, needed to happen.
In what way? Why did they need to hear it?
You only have to travel along the... Gulf of America, to see the devastation that the hurricanes and tornadoes did. And those people have been utterly forgotten. And they're living under tarpaulins and sheets of 8 before, and it's horrendous, and that they've had no help whatsoever. And there's a lot of forgotten people in America that I think really wanted to hear what the Donald said today.
A lot of the kind of the news reporting that I've seen that kind of surround the inauguration, yes, it's been kind of concerned with, a lot of the kind of more ridiculous things that Trump has said, say in relation kind of, planting a flag on Mars and kind of annexing Greenland and things like that. But to me, what is most important is the effect on climate change that will have. That this administration that is coming in, full of climate deniers who basically believe that, the US should exploit all of its resources in terms of oil and gas. And that's only just going to worsen drastically the effects of climate change that, we've just recently seen in the US itself, the kind of apocalyptic scenes in LA. And I just don't think it's getting the attention that it kind of deserves, really.
Well, I mean, you're right. There were various points in his speech where he made clear that America... Well, he actually said, we will drill, baby, drill, and got a huge round of applause from the audience. It'd be interesting to know if Boris Johnson and Priti Patel were clapping at that point, because they were actually in the rotunda. Look, the problem that Donald Trump has got is that he got the majority of votes. He got a sweeping win in the Electoral College, and the American people voted for those policies. So it's probably unrealistic to have expected him to say anything else than what he did in the speech. But you're right. I mean, if you are somebody whose main political priority is to combat climate change, you will be very fearful of what will happen as a result of that speech.
Well, I think part of the kind of part of the issue is that, yes, a lot of people will have voted for Trump in terms of believing that kind of, the America First kind of national security side of the agenda is important to them. But what I'd stress, if I had the chance, is that, regardless of kind of, whether you shut the borders or even how wealthy you are, climate change just doesn't care, the wildfires in LA affected some of the richest people kind of in America, and, kind of that side of things, that, shutting down the borders and whatever, it doesn't matter because, some of the kind of like the voters who will have kind of turned to Trump for that feeling of kind of, what he was talking about in terms of America's sovereignty and importance in the world, their views will have just been shaped by things like Fox News, who just fundamentally don't believe in, climate change is an issue.